Well, good morning. Welcome. Glad you're here today. You may or may not know that we've been in a series in Genesis talking about what it means to be human. And actually, this is the first part of a 3-month series. Every month will have its own little focus. And this morning we conclude this particular series. We're talking about the Sabbath. And if anything that gets said or talked about here in the next 20 minutes really resonates with you, a book that I highly recommend is called The Sabbath by Abraham Joshua Heschel. We have a few copies that are in the bookstore. I guarantee you will not be able to get through the first 10 chapters of introduction without reevaluating your entire life. Check it out. It's out there. It is a good one. So let's get going. Did you know that 15% of Canadians surveyed said that job stress has led them to the brink of suicide? Did you know that in a 2002 study, it was discovered that men who work 60 hours a week are twice as likely to have a heart attack than men who work 40 hours a week? Did you know that if you wanted to today, you could buy yourself a $30,000 coffin that comes outfitted with high-end speakers? And a lifetime subscription to the music service called Spotify. So while you are in your tomb, your favorite music can be playing forever and ever. And there was a link up to the tombstone where there's a small little screen. It'll say what song is playing. And there will also be a speaker in the tombstone. So the dead and even those who are visiting you will be able to listen to your favorite music on and on and on. I was on a website this week called sleeplearning.com. This was their tagline. Your non-waking hours, 1/3 of your life, are now non-productive. Tap this huge potential for advancing your career, health, and happiness while you sleep. Did you know that in Japan, you can buy toilet paper that has an English language lesson on every square, so that you can learn even while you're occupied? Did you know that studies have shown that zoo animals require at least 1 day off a week from the public to avoid any sort of erratic behavior? Did you know that 68% of cell phone users experience something called a phantom vibration, where you have your phone in your pocket or your purse and, oh, it must be someone's looking to get into contact with me, only to recognize that it was nothing at all? It feels like life never stops. In fact, workaholics used to be the people who would work anytime, anywhere. What has changed is that it has become the norm to be on call 24/7. It never stops. The calls, the texts, the tweets, the messages, the Facebook posts. It never stops. The lists, the to-dos, the responsibilities, the processes. It never stops. People who need this or that or the other thing from you comes every single day, one after the other. And when you and I give in to this kind of a life, we're not only receiving these multiple messages over and over and over again, but we are also sending out at least one message. In 1899, the French broke a land speed record. They developed this automobile, which, with the high chassis and the protruding driver from the top, probably didn't do much for the aerodynamics. However, this battery-powered electric car, torpedo-styled, set a new land record. It could travel at 100 kilometers per hour. Impressive, 1899. And the name of the car? La Jamais Contente, or the Never Happy. If there is one message that gets broadcast out of us. When we allow ourselves to be buried by this non-stop, speedy nature of the culture we find ourselves in, it's that we're never happy. Because nothing is ever enough. And there's always something better to do. Always someone better to be with. Something else to accomplish. Something else to add to our belongings. Always something. And the more that we get, perhaps the less happier we are. We're never fully happy, no matter how fast we moved. And even now, as we move faster than any other humans have ever traveled before, it feels like life isn't getting better. It feels like it might be getting worse. And it's no longer really a life. It feels more like a race. We have fast food that destroys our body from the inside out. We have fast cars in an age where we have come so used to a term called road rage. Perhaps you have felt it. Or people who multitask while they're in the car, doing their makeup, answering the phone, driving, yelling at the kids. I saw one guy actually eating a bowl of cereal while he was driving. His knees on the wheel, steering it. And I'm not the innocent victim here. Many a times, I've been frustrated behind the wheel. I remember a number of years ago, we were actually waiting at a stoplight. My kids were still small at that time in car seats. And the person in front of me didn't hop onto that green light as fast as I wanted them to. 1 or 2 seconds may have gone by before he or she hit the gas. So without reservation, I blurted out, "Get moving, Grandma." Only to have my son, still in a car seat at that time, just learning to talk, sort of poke his head from around my headrest, look out the front window and say, "Grandma's in that car?" We live in an age even of fast kids. They're always doing something. Every waking hour is caught up with something. There's no in-between, lax time. We put them into programs and sports and music, all very good things, but sometimes with the wrong intention because we feel like we got to make sure our kid speeds to the front of the line and is better than those other kids so that he or she can have a better chance at life. We live in an age of fast technology. In an age of sound bites where we don't want to have a conversation or hear a story. We just want that one juicy snippet. We live in an age of on-demand entertainment. I don't want to have to wait for anything. I want it right now. We live in an age of fast technology where all these gadgets that have been invented to save us time are probably helping us waste more time. We live in a cult of speed. You and I are slaves to it. But the questions remain. What are we racing towards? And why are we so unhappy? I wonder if it's because when we live at this accelerated pace, we step all over boundaries. We feel disoriented because the seasons no longer mean anything to us and our rhythms get out of whack. And all the boundaries that have sort of been set in place to keep us alive and healthy and in good standing, well, we step over those. And now we don't know where to start and where to stop, when to rest, or perhaps even how to rest. It's been observed that in a 24/7 world, all time is the same. We pay bills on Saturday, shop on Sunday, take the laptop to bed, work through the night, tuck into all-day breakfasts. We mock the seasons by eating imported strawberries in the middle of winter and hot crust buns once an Easter treat all year round. With smartphones, pagers, and the internet, everyone and everything is now permanently available. You and I, we allow ourselves to be carried away by a multitude of conflicting concerns. We say yes to too many things, to too many demands. We surrender to too many projects. We commit ourselves to too many people. And as we continue to keep up this unsustainable pace, we're doing it because we feel like we have to. Everybody else is. This seems the way the world is running. But maybe, just maybe, really, we don't have to. Genesis says this. By the 7th day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the 7th day, he rested from all his work. And then God blessed the 7th day and made it what? Oh, he made it holy. because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. Out of everything that God put together in the beginning, the only thing that stands out, the only thing that was marked as holy was the Sabbath. This parcel of time is set apart. It's independent. Independent of the world. Independent of human, man-made rules of time, production, value, and self-worth. Instead, the Sabbath becomes a gift to us. And the best way for me to describe it, or at least understand it, is as a holy snow day. Did anyone here, you guys ever grow up with snow days in this province? Yeah, kind of, sort of. I remember my son, actually the last little bit, was super angry because his friends in Ontario got to stay home because it was too cold outside in the fall. It was like negative 27 or 28, and he was enraged because he was going to school while it's negative 40-something out here. But as kids, snow days were the best. You'll remember them. You never keep track of the news reports. You don't know what's coming on with the weather. All you know is that every morning your mom and dad kicks you out of bed and sends you out to a place you don't want to be for 6 hours, and then you come home. But on those mornings where you get up and you brush your teeth and you wipe the sleep out of your eyes and you look out the window only to realize that everything is covered, buried under 2 or 3 feet of snow, you know exactly what that means. There is no chance that any buses are running. Mom and Dad couldn't even drive you to school, even though they really want to. And it's too far away, too cold, too snowy to even walk. So the snow day becomes one of your favorite days of the whole year. Because it's a day where you are let loose from any responsibilities, from anyone to meet, from anything to do. No obligations, no pressures. You have permission now to play, to be with friends, to take a nap, to read a good book. No one can command your time anymore because it's impossible to do anything. Everybody is snowed in. So the Sabbath is our holy snow day. Once every 7 days, God gives you and me a holy snow day. It's this cathedral carved out of time that reminds us that you and I, we are not the sum of what we do or what we can produce. And this has been a challenge that the human race has had, well, since pretty close to the very beginning. In fact, you might even remember this story of the Hebrews while they were in Egyptian captivity. Then the Israelite overseers went and appealed to Pharaoh, "Why have you treated your servants this way? Your servants are given no straw. You are told, make bricks. Your servants are being beaten, but the fault is with your own people." And Pharaoh said, "Lazy. That's what you are. Lazy. That is why you keep saying, 'Let us go and sacrifice to the Lord.' Now get to work. You will not be given any straw, yet you must produce your full quota of bricks." In Egypt, Hebrews were only worthwhile because they could make bricks. They were slave labor. This is why they were kept around. So when the Hebrews and their leaders would go to those who were in charge of them and say, "Hey, listen, we need a break. We're tired. There is a certain time that's carved out for us to sacrifice and honor and worship the Lord," Pharaoh comes back and says, "You don't care about that kind of stuff. You're just doing that because you're lazy." And of course he would see things that way, because he wasn't treating these Hebrews as people, he was treating them as machines. Machines don't need a break. Machines can work 24/7. So if you're a machine, why do you need a break? Why do you need to rest? Why do you need to carve out time to sacrifice, honor, praise God? Have you ever felt that the only reason you might be on this planet, or perhaps the only reason people keep you around, is because you can make bricks? Have you ever felt like a machine where you get up in the morning, you go do other stuff for other people, you come home, you scramble together a dinner, you might hang out with the kids for 15 minutes, and then you go to bed and you do the exact same thing over again and over again and over again and over again? Have you ever felt like life wasn't life at all? You were just stuck in that working rut, and the only reason perhaps you're on this planet was to produce something. Well, God speaks into that the same way he did there. He speaks into it here. The gift he gives to the Israelites in the Exodus is the same one that he gives us today. It is a reminder. It is a reaffirmation that your value is set apart from the bricks. That you are on this planet for many good things, but the primary one isn't to make bricks. You are not a machine. So God sets up this landmark, this holy landmark, once every 7 days, where he reminds us, yeah, you are loved, not because of what you can produce, because of what you are. So the goal isn't to do, the goal is to be. On the Sabbath, the goal isn't to own, but to give, not to control, but to share. The Sabbath is where time and not space is sacred. Heschel teaches us when he says this. He says the meaning of the Sabbath is to celebrate time rather than space. 6 days a week, we live under the tyranny of things of space. And on the Sabbath, we try to become attuned to holiness in time. It is a day on which we are called upon to share in what is eternal in time, to turn from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world. The Sabbath itself is a sanctuary which we build, a sanctuary in time. I don't know about you, but I can't read that quote or preach this sermon without feeling ridiculously guilty. I spent 25 minutes in the last service ranting about this. And the very first thing I did when I walked through those curtains and went to the back room was to check my phone. And I dropped it quick. But how many of us are tied to that very thing? How many of us have the phantom buzz? How many of us are always on? How many of us are hooked on technology? How many of us are occupied by things in the cyber world? How many of us run and chase and live life as if it was one big fat race? I'm talking to me as much as I'm talking to you here this morning. This is not the way that God designed us to be. And he is very serious about us keeping the Sabbath. Look at what he says to Moses in Exodus. He says, then the Lord says to Moses, say to the Israelites, you must observe my Sabbaths. This will be a sign between me and you for the generations to come, so you may know that I am the Lord who makes you holy. Observe the Sabbath, because it is holy to you. Anyone who desecrates it is to be put to what now? Oh, to death? Those who do any work on that day must be cut off from their people. For 6 days work is to be done, but on the seventh day, it's a day of Sabbath rest, holy to the Lord. Whoever does any work on the Sabbath day is to be put to death. The Israelites are to observe the Sabbath, celebrating it for the generations to come as a lasting covenant. It will be a sign between me and the Israelites forever. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. Okay, God. Okay, I get it. Like, I understand you got standards, you want us to meet, but like, you're really going to follow through on that? Like, let's say actually somebody really steps all over the Sabbath. Then what? Then what happens? Well, while the Israelites were in the wilderness, a man was found gathering wood on the Sabbath day. And those who found him gathering wood brought him to Moses and Aaron and the whole assembly, and they kept him in custody because it was not clear what should be done to him. And then the Lord said to Moses, the man must die. The whole assembly must stone him outside the camp. So the assembly took him outside the camp and stoned him to death, as the Lord commanded Moses. I don't know about you, but I don't think that memory verse is going to show up in any sort of kids' church paraphernalia in the next little bit. It seems a little bit harsh. Or is it? Because if the Sabbath is set apart and holy, if it mirrors creation, if it's a signpost that says God's in charge, he's in control, rest because he did, when people like you and I stay plugged in 24/7, live life as if it was a race, and are never happy, when we work on the Sabbath and do not observe this cathedral in time that God gives us, this holy snow day, essentially what we are saying to God is this: I don't trust you. I don't trust you to take care of me so I'm going to take care of myself. This is what happened to the man who was gathering wood on the Sabbath. He felt that God couldn't provide for him on that day. And sometimes you and I are the same. Just a couple more emails. One more phone call. One more job. I know it's 9 o'clock, but I got to go out, honey. I'll be right back, I promise. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then all of a sudden, again, we don't know where we start and where we end. And when we trample all over the Sabbath, it is an affront to God as our creator and God as our provider. It's an affront against the created order. Because we are saying to God and everybody else who is watching us, well, my biggest concern is self-preservation. Just looking out for me, make sure all my bases are covered and I have a good and happy life. And when we begin to think in that way, we succumb to the survival of the fittest mentality. Again, we put the things of space over the things of time. And we are fooled into thinking again and again and again that he who dies with the most toys wins. And when we live life like that, we're not only in the world, as the scriptures say, but we're also of the world. If we never turn off, if we always say yes, if we are never happy, if we are always racing, you know what? I don't think God has to kill us because we're doing a great job killing ourselves. So maybe this is why author, teacher, scholar Eugene Peterson says this. He says, I'm not sure evangelism is the primary work of the church. I think helping each other keep Sabbath might be. Does this mean that we shouldn't be telling others about Jesus? No. Does it mean that it's not important to go out and spread the good news? No, that's super important. Does it mean that God doesn't want us to tell others about him? Oh, he does. But maybe the way we tell others, well, maybe we can adjust that a little bit. Because if you and I hold on to the Sabbath, if we unplug, stop racing, and say that our rest is found in God, our provision is found in the Creator. Our story starts in Genesis 1 where we are very good, and this is a God who ties himself to us and says, I will be with you forever. Then we're saying something to our family, and to our friends, and to our neighbors, to the guys and girls on the hockey team, to the ladies at work, to your boss who sends you one more message, just get this done on Sunday. Do you mind doing that for me? We can still have our, Christian crusades. We can still do our Christmas pageants. We can still have Christian books and Christian theme parks, I guess, if you really want them. And we can still have our Christian debates. And all those things serve a purpose in one way or another. But perhaps the best way to tell this world about who is in charge and who we belong to is keeping the Sabbath. Because when we do that, we are saying, okay, God, you're real. I believe that. And I trust you to take care of me. So then, friends, the Sabbath becomes time well wasted. Time to rest. Time to celebrate. Where it becomes the climax of our week. The Sabbath isn't like a recharging battery station so you can go out to the next 6 days and work. No, the Sabbath is the climax of all that says, this is what life is designed for, to enjoy all God has created and all the people that he has given to me. The Sabbath is an art. It's an art of being unuseful. It is a summons to remove all distractions and see the world and each other for what they really are. In 2006, São Paulo, Brazil, put this new law into effect. It was called the Clean City Law. And they outlawed any sort of signage or advertisements in the whole city. So all the billboards came down. All the signs, pamphlets became illegal. And within a year's time, they took down 15,000 billboards. They handed out over $8 million of fines in that first year when people were not coming into the rules, looking after it the way they should have been. It was illegal now to advertise and clutter up their city in this way. Now, several years onward, we have one of South America's largest and most important cities. And in 2011, 70% of the 11 million people who called that city home were surveyed, and they said, you know what? This was a really good idea. Business didn't suffer like we were worried it would. And instead, I can really see my city, the beauty of the landscape. I can see the beauty of the architecture. I'm noticing things that I could not see before. This stuff was all here, but it was all buried and hidden behind all these signs. And one resident was quoted as saying this: the city's now got a new language, a new identity. And I wonder if the same can be said for us. When we remove all the signs that say, move faster, your main purpose is to produce, your primary worry is to look after yourself, or are you unhappy? Well, just try something else. If we are able to remove all of those things, then a new point of view is possible, a new language, a new identity, and it is there for us if we want it. Because you and I need to have courage for the great sorrows of life and patience for the small ones. And when you have laboriously accomplished your daily task, go to sleep in peace, because God is awake.